Hello YouTube, and welcome to another episode of M&B II Bannerlord News. I'm GD, and let's get this started with. So 1 year after releasing their short teaser trailer, Tailworlds, the developer of the Mount & Blade games, has just revealed some new screenshots and speculation that comes with it. The screenshots feature some in-game screens for the first time in Bannerlord's history, as up to this point all we really got was some unofficial art and the teaser, with some interviews of developers stringed, here and there. First set of screenshots that was released was a set of in-game screenshots of the new game. What's for certain is that the game still appears as if it's a Mount & Blade game, which, given all the engine rewrites and the promises that models aren't going to be used and that they were going to be writing new code, is something that's actually pretty good, because if the game looks like a Mount & Blade game, then hopefully it'll also feel like it, but it'll feel like a familiar game that kind of like has an improved engine, that has gotten better in a lot of places, and I mean, that's what you'd hope for, and hopefully that's what beta would be for, to kind of balance out all the little details. So, starting with the first screenshot, you can see this is a picture of two guards. What we're going to do in each picture is we're going to speculate a faction, and we're going to speculate some sort of setting. So this looks like it's going to be some sort of a Serenade faction, but there are some elements about these guys that kind of remind me of some Kurgit stuff in the early Mount & Blade game, but I don't know about that. I guess we'll have to see that. We'll have to see about that in the future. The next one here is an interior. Again, this looks very kind of Middle Eastern looking, very Serenade kind of base. You can see there's a Majlis there next to the fireplace, but there is a fireplace, which is, it's really interesting how Tailworlds always kind of doesn't have distinct lines between their cultures and, what was a real culture in the past. It's kind of just like a mishmash. Next, we have some pictures here of your character on a horse. So as we can clearly see, there are some improvements to reflective edges or reflective surfaces. The light reflecting on his helmet there is vastly improved to the old Mount & Blade game. The horse also looks a lot better, and we'll talk more about horses later. But here you can see that the horse is, it's looking like he's interacting with the environment, so I guess that could be a good thing, but I do see some models there in the background that look like they're very similar to the old Mount & Blade, even the fences, so maybe there are some placeholders at the moment. This is another city here, and again, I'm guessing this is going to be something that is related to a Serenade faction. We still don't know all of the factions in the Mount & Blade game. All we know is that it's a prequel to Warband and Mount & Blade, so it's set in the time of the Calradic Empire. Here we get a nice little look into probably some of the new lighting effects. Again, reflective surfaces there you can see on the ground with that water puddle. Really cool stuff, and a lot of the textures we've been looking at here seem to be a lot, the texture work is very high res. It looks like one of those high res mods for Mount & Blade Warband, actually, but yeah, it's funny that I say that. The thing I wanted to say about the horse is you can see that the horse has generally seen an increase in size when you compare it to old Mount & Blade games. Previously, your legs would reach kind of like halfway down the horse's legs, and now I'm kind of glad that the horse has gotten its size properly. A lot of the villagers here that are around in this image, especially the guy on the right, yeah, I'm guessing that's a placeholder. It could be not, though. Here we see another picture. This picture is actually my least favorite, just because of the back of those little mountains in the background. I think that really doesn't work that well. Horizons were something that the Mount & Blade games always kind of suffered at, and yeah, maybe we'll see more to be fixed there. But yeah, nothing really stands out as special about this picture. The next one here, I think they're showcasing some of their new shaders. As you can see, the trees look a lot more, I guess, dynamic, a lot more real. They're a lot thicker, and the shadows are also really good. You can see that the shadows are also reflecting off the helmet. So again, a big focus on graphics in these in-game screenshots so far. I guess all the concept stuff comes with the concept screenshots. Here's a beautiful example of some of the amazing texture work that I think is being done here. When you compare this to some of the early stuff in Warband and Mount & Blade, it really is a big jump for one of my favorite developers ever, Tail Worlds. This is one of the last images here in this in the in-game screenshot, and for me this was something that kind of sealed the deal on a Romanized or Romanesque faction. You can see there that eagle in the middle of the courtyard. A lot of the buildings do have a Roman feel to them. You have a lot of red being used to paint some parts of the building again. So very, very Empire kind of esque feel coming out of this marketplace. And what's interesting is that Tail Worlds did say before that they were going to have a new physics system in place. So assumably you can just go up to that pot over there and break it on that poor man's head, which would be very awesome. This picture again is showcasing a lot of the lighting, and it looks like it's again set in something that's like a Nord or Saxon village, I guess. Probably gonna analog between the Saxons fighting the Romans, and maybe the Romans even fighting the Britons. That would be interesting to see a faction that that kind of takes on a little bit of the Briton tribes, or I don't know. I guess we'll have to see, wait and see. And the last image here shows you a little bit of some of the depth of field that I think is being put in place. Depth of field is when the thing that is close to you is a lot more in focus than the thing that is far away. And this makes for some interesting perspective, I think. Also, we get to see a little bit more about the character. If you notice the difference between this character and some of the other characters, this character looks a little bit wider, and he does have a scar on his face, so I think they're trying to show us a little bit of the customization here, but they probably haven't really figured out how they're going to do it just yet. So that actually concludes all the in-game screenshots. Let's go ahead and move into the concept screenshots. So the first concept screenshot was this screenshot of characters. Again, these characters are distinctly Mount & Blade characters. I don't know what it is about them, maybe their size, or maybe the way the armor fits, but I guess this first image showcases a little bit of armor, and if we have any comments to make, you can very clearly see that a lot of these factions are pretty much going to be kind of like crosses between existing cultures in the world. So the first two kind of look Romanesque, but they also kind of have some, you know, I don't know. It looks like it's something that would be Roman, but it also looks a little bit mixed with some Russian stuff, some Viger stuff. Like, I can't help not think of Vigers when I look at these pictures, especially the second and the third, maybe the first one as well. So I guess it's really going to be interesting to see what kind of factions existed in the sort of pre-Calradic Empire. All we know that the Vigers and the Nords kind of lived far off on their own, so I don't know how it's going to be. Mount Blade lore is something that's very complicated and not explored very well, so that's going to be something that's interesting. The next image here is sort of the nail in the coffin in the existence of a Romanesque faction, and it's a concept art of this Romanesque looking soldier. This is something that looks a lot like actually Byzantine soldiers, so it looks like the Roman faction might be something that's a little bit of a mix of the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. This soldier is distinctly Byzantine. His helmet looks very Byzantine. His clothes, I don't know about his weapons, but it's really going to be cool to see an Empire kind of faction form up in the new game. The next sort of focus that appears to be, or the next thing that we're headed towards in the game is this focus, especially in the concept screenshots, is this focus towards the internal of buildings and how buildings are looking to be modular. And we'll talk about this more as time goes on. So in this building here, we see the inside of a tower. This isn't something that's new. A lot of buildings and towers and things like that in the old games have sort of these interiors to them. So I guess this is just an idea of how now the wall system is going to be a little bit bigger. The gateway system is going to be a little bit bigger as well, it seems. Again, I can't really tell. This is just me doing some speculation for you guys. The next image, though, is a little bit telling. This is showing you a lot of buildings that seem to be in similar size. So if you look at the first two buildings, I guess they have kind of like a similar size. You also have like these walls, and for me, when I see something like this, I'm thinking, okay, they are showing off some buildings that you can actually get to place yourself, or maybe even upgrade yourself. So for example, you may have a village that you own, and you may, or a town, and over time you may upgrade the walls, get better walls, maybe get yourself a church, or a fort, or a marketplace, or better towers, and maybe that's what these concept screenshots are headed for. More modularity in the game, more decisions in actually shaping your settlements. Yeah, that's going to be something interesting to look out for. The next image here is, again, they're focusing a lot on the interiors, so maybe there's a move to try to make every single building have an interior to it, to avoid having kind of like instanced scenes of buildings. So for example, in Old Mount & Blade or in Mount & Blade Warband, let's say you were walking around a castle, right, and you wanted to go inside the Lord's Hall, you would have to go to the door, press F or E or whatever you got your thing set to, and it would take you inside. Maybe now they're trying to work for something that's a little bit more modular and something that actually fits inside the building, so you just go in and see what's inside. And I think this will be really great for single player as well as multiplayer. The next picture here, I think this is showcasing several things. First, it's showcasing a little bit of the style of some of the towns that we might be seeing. I'm not really sure what kind of faction this would be, but I am guessing kind of like North Italian, maybe 680, something like that. Maybe even higher north, I don't know, but I think the main thing to look at here is the rain effects, the visual effects, and maybe I can say for certain, or hopefully I expect that the new game will have a lot of new weather effects and wind effects. We do know that it will have a day weather cycle again, so that's really cool, and we can tell that from the screenshots. The next image here goes back to the idea of modularity, in that now you can kind of customize your own towers or maybe your own settlements. You can see there on the left the towers, they look like they're getting progressively better. So the first one is shortest, and then the next one is kind of bigger, and then the third one is kind of like a downgrade, but the fourth one is definitely a bit better than all the three. So maybe it's kind of like an upgrade tree where you can carry your towers. Same thing holds true for the wall segments on the right side, or maybe they're just showing us different cultures. This could be just different towers for different cultures and the different wall segments for different cultures. This is a very big possibility. An interesting thing is to notice above the wall segments you see that looks like a window, and it looks like it's openable, so we may have openable windows and openable doors in these wall segments, and maybe even in other buildings where you could or you are able to kind of open the window, shoot, and then close it and hope for the best. But again, as you can see on top of the wall segments there in the middle, you can see that there are different ones, and I'm guessing again this is just showing us different factions or maybe different upgradable paths on these buildings. In both cases, that would be really cool. This one is of the arena. It's showing you an arena. You can't have a Mount Blade game without an arena. You need that for tournaments. You can see in the bottom right again, the arena seems to look the same, but again, it's changed. It's really difficult to tell whether these are going to be different arenas or same arenas with upgradable paths, but we'll talk more about that towards the end of this video. In this tower image as well, you can see that the tower on the left kind of doesn't have the little, I guess this would be the main keep of the castle. It doesn't really have a secondary wall around it, but in the second image on the right, it does. And on the colored image, the concept image on the right, it does. And again, the focus of these concept pictures are modularity, interior design, and just general look and feel of the faction's architecture. I think that's what they were going for. And again, they reiterate on that with this image. This is probably most probably going to be Byzantine / Romanesque inspired architecture. A lot of different tower tops there. So again, maybe a lot. This is for sure going to be the same faction. So all these different tower heads are only telling me one thing. You can either customize them, or maybe you'll be able to upgrade them. Maybe even better, you'll be able to get to design some of them by yourself. The last two images are images of some concepts. And I think these are again trying to give us a little bit of a hint as to some factions. We see some types of arrows, some types of sort of arrow containers or holders. I'm not sure what the actual name for that thing is. I'm sure someone will point that out to me. But again, you know, when you see a lot of leather and a lot of fur, you're thinking, okay, I guess this could be either Vega or Nord. And then you see kind of like the slick ones. So maybe the bottom right one, probably going to be Roman. The one on top of it probably going to be Vaegir or Nord, and maybe the ones to the left of that probably going to be Serenade or whatever the factions are going to be, but it's going to be very interesting to kind of figure out the factions as this process goes on. And the final image shows us some of the helmets. I believe that all these helmets are going to be to the new Byzantine/Roman faction, just because all these helmets really are iconic of 4th to 6th century Byzantine. And there are some things that look a little bit older and things that look a little bit newer, but then again, Tale Worlds hasn't really always used history. It's used history as inspiration, but not history as something that is sort of black and white and red lines. It likes to miss and match things, and I think that's why it's going to be great. In the end, I hope you guys enjoyed this little episode. Remember to subscribe for all news Mount & Blade 2 related for the future. And also, please do look out for an exclusive interview that's going to be hosted here on this channel with hopefully some of the developers of Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. And maybe if you have some questions that you'd like to ask, you can leave those in the comment section below, and hopefully we can pick some of your questions, and those will go right up to some developers. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. That really does help me out, and I'll see you all in the next episode.